times I see the video, I still get all this. Thank you, Cheryl, for that wonderful introduction, and good afternoon to Single Mom Scholars, those beautiful children, and a warm acknowledgement to every single one of those women. Okay. When we lift up women, we lift up humanity, and our call is to lift women up. And when we come together in this cause, we are the lift. And we can thank Melinda Gates for those inspiring words from her new book called The Moment of Lift. And I was so glad to come across it, so synchronistic, just after Sherry invited me to this luncheon to speak. Totally appropriate. Okay, and like all physical weightlifting, this kind of lifting feels good as we're doing it. And the enlivening endorphin boosts lasts a really long time. When I was invited to share some insights at a luncheon to honor the Single Mom Scholar organization, I was thrilled. I had been a single mom. I know what it takes to get through. And yet it is my dedication to the sentiment of friendship, and with it the power of gratitude, which symbolize the heart of a campaign to lift and light up the lives of young women, those struggling to achieve their visions for a productive future. As a psychologist, my work takes me to the interface of love and work, which are broadly the essential realms of a well-lived life. And my work requires that I work as a team, client and therapist, to bring life into balance and perspective. The mission we share is to figure out what kinds of shifts in beliefs and habits can dispel despair or mediocrity and move life into a lighter, happier place, a place with a solid sense of equanimity and well-being. I am by nature curious and analytic, so I have to figure everything out. And I also have a strong will to help people create their best life. And I assume all of us here are engaged in that quest. So it turns out that a sense of meaning, coupled with feelings of relevance and belonging, as we can hear from the women as they speak to us through the video and in person, become the driving forces to create a joyful day-to-day life. And this quest could never be complete before we address the treasure of friendship. Because without the intimacy and support of close relationships, none of us could live the fulfilling lives we desire. And I personally could never have gotten through without my friends. We didn't have the program that you have, but I had friendship. So evolved my fascination with friendship as a protective factor. And we call it friendship medicine, which is the working title of a book that's in progress. I believe friendship is therapeutic by virtue of its complexity, its functionality, and the magical way it lends us the spirit and strength to move forward with vitality throughout our lifespan. And in our later years, this vibrancy is actually fueled by our ability to nurture others. You can feel that palpability in this room. Friendship, at its best, is a process of mutual nurturing. It starts small, but done well, it can reach its arms around the world. It's clear to me that while some strong friendships are achieved in our early years, the continuity of good relationships is built on a few intentional behaviors. And these are, listen for them, positivity, vulnerability, and consistency. In other words, friendship is a pairing of positive emotion with action and never to be taken for granted. A million insights, but here are just a few of them that I've gathered over the years by being a good friend. as well as coaching others. So many people come to see me with despair. Part of it is that they've got no support system. Friendship is a noun, a verb, and a state of being, a state of grace. The neurochemistry created by friendship is at the heart of the matter. The feeling of affection that's created through connection transmits goodness, contentment hormones like oxytocin and endorphins are contagious. And think about the flow of oxytocin that fueled your attachment to your newborn, if you had one, or recall the feeling of pleasurable attraction to another human being or animal. Again, this desirable state of friendship is an emotional and mindful process that requires our attention and attention in order to flower. Such an affinity at its best creates a feeling of worth and self-efficacy. It amplifies us by identifying and mirroring our true essence back to us so that we can use it for growing and, when necessary, for transforming. Because people can say things about us, but unless we believe it and internalize it, it doesn't work the way we need it to work. By extension, on a larger scale, friendships become kinship, stewardship, and motivate giving so that others can in turn care for more people in the future. And we see that spelled out here in Technicolor. And then it reflects that goodwill back to families as well as communities and so on. When we have that feeling of intimacy coupled with shared values, there's a reciprocal appreciation and a reflection. And experienced as fondness or rapport, it perpetuates growth in all kinds of relationships, becoming one of these upward connective spirals of caring. And just like the expression, love is a verb, friendship is a verb, and adds loving actions as a boost to the health of others, as well as to ourselves. Interesting research about health and friendship. Finally, the good news is that we can build our treasure trove of friendship at any age. And it's reassuring that if we want to, if we're motivated, we can revitalize older friendships as well as create new ones. And it's so appropriate that we're here in the Newcomers Club, because here's a field of potential right in this room. Let's take a look at the components for building friendship. I'm a visual thinker, and Amy and I have included a little diagram. It's got a triangle on it. And I like to think about the action of friendship to look like a triangle. And there are 3 key words that I just mentioned, and their actions on each of the 3 sides. So, the major components of friendship are being seen for who we are, feeling safe, and feeling satisfied. True? We need all of those. And to be seen, we need to be vulnerable, just as Ebony says in the video. We need to be honest and sharing. To feel safe, we need consistency and attention. And to feel satisfied, we need pleasure and positivity. Make sense?
Yes.
All 3 of these add up to intimacy and allow us to easily give and receive. And there's a whole upward flow when those combine. And when these components are in harmony, the result is a higher quality of life. And we know this. We've all experienced this. Another way of saying this is that being nurtured ourselves can make a tangible difference in the life of others. And when women are surveyed about their goals, guess what the number 1 goal is? To make a difference. And here we are. And the number 1 goal is to make a difference, and that grows out of, well, certainly post-child rearing. I'm sorry about those plosive P's here. It's child rearing. But Margaret Mead, if any of us remember her, she talked about post-menopausal zest. which is all of a sudden there's this burst of energy, and we really want to use it for a good cause. And so we're here in the Newcomers Club. The women you've met in the video have been given the opportunity to be educated, yes, while they raise their children. But more importantly, their gifts and talents are being activated so that they can use them to raise themselves off along with their children and the people they will someday touch. So we'll look around. We've heard from some medical professionals, and within this room, we might one day be touched by one of these women who is now being educated and trained. To that point, here's one of my favorite quotations on that subject. Love this. To be educated is not so much to be taught as it is to be awakened to who you really are. Not so much to be taught, but to be awakened. Let's imagine or remember a day that you met or made a friend along the way, perhaps in school or at work or in some other surprising way, my favorite kind. Think of how their companionship contributed to your self-esteem and confidence. Kind of get an image in your mind. We all have one somewhere. Bookmark this experience. When our lives are tough, it's really hard to be seen or validated. We tend to be preoccupied. The important process of acquiring self-worth or usable self-esteem is often hard to come by. We can be so busy surviving. Single Mom Scholars is providing the crucial encouragement, as you've heard, for these women who have made their goals and visions known to us. But guess what? The friendship dynamic continues to shape whatever growing we do, regardless of age, and becomes especially more important as we age. We can think of why. Perhaps we need to survive a relationship change or take on a brand new mission, but imagine how much easier it is when someone, a friend, can be a compassionate witness or a companion on the journey. So when two people come to a new area at the same time, there's that click of companionship, similar journey, different people. Our feeling of value and personal power accelerates with connection. In the case of these young women, as they so deftly articulate, being with a group with whom they can share vulnerability, compassion, reflections, and consistency benefits each of them now and into the future. Think about it. The need to be seen and safe and supported with positivity doesn't ever come to an end. It is a continuous process for all of us as we grow. And the challenge to thriving in our adult years is to find ways to keep it coming, to lean into purpose, to be relevant, and to belong. Without connection and community, we run the risk of isolation and loneliness, which all of us know by now puts us at risk physically and mentally, health-wise. All these nurses here. We know this. Friendship, and in extension, a support system, is an antidote to negative and limiting beliefs and feelings by keeping us in contact with our higher selves. Making friends is tough, especially being new to an area. It takes time, it takes trust, and a little bit of luck. Who knew that the girl you sat next to at university would still, after all these years, be one of your good friends? But the right friend can be life-changing and appear at any time, particularly if you have clear intentions. Sometimes I say to my client, there might be a vacancy sign that says, you know, I'm available for friendship. And then it happens. Canadian philosopher and author Alain de Botton shares 6 ways you can tell your friendship is the real deal. And these are just a smattering. They trust you. True friendship is about trusting one another. While acquaintances or work colleagues might hide their foibles or their sorrows from you, a true friend shares their vulnerability. They feel safe enough to do so. And a friend gives you that gift of vulnerability, makes it much easier for you to be vulnerable in return. They like you for the real you. As humans, we're never perfect. We all have idiosyncrasies galore. Remember the quote, "A good friend is someone who knows everything about you and likes you anyway." Not despite it, but because of that. I have friends who are so perfectionistic, they're very dear to my heart. I know what to expect, and it's charming. They allow space. That's what I call it. It can be exasperating, but it's also true. It's what makes us human. When you get flustered, frustrated, or can't keep it together, a friend is there for you. We understand how easy it is to lose perspective or underestimate our ability to cope. In hindsight, it's probably not the end of the world, but you can rely on your friend to calm you down and maybe even be there for you with some kind of solution or other. But if not, perhaps you've called the wrong friend. So it's a good idea to have an assortment. And that's the truth. They are a lighthouse during moments when you lose your way. On days or weeks when you're not sure about anything in your life, the right friend listens. And when you're unable to make sense of yourself, or you find yourself in that dark place, as Betsy said, your friend knows who you are and is there to support you. Quick parable. I'm going to read it. A woman was walking down the street and fell into a deep hole. She was probably texting. And for a while, she felt dejected, but soon noticed what seemed like a medical professional walking above her, and she yelled up at her and said, "Hey, doc, can you help me out? I'm hurt." "No problem," she said. "I'll write you a prescription." And soon the little paper fluttered down and went on her way. Rejection won't really help. A little while later, Our Lady in the Hole noticed some clerical robes scooting by, and she once again shouted, "Hey, Father, I'm stuck down here. Can you help me out?" He said agreeably, "Sure, I'll say a prayer for you." And then he walked on. Our Lady slumped in despair until she noticed the running shoes of one of her friends. And this time, fighting tears, she shouted up yet again, "Hey, friend, it's me. I'm stuck in this hole. Can you help me out?" And shortly, she turned around. She heard a loud thump and turned around to see her friend sliding down into the hole. "What on earth are you doing here?" she whined. "Now we're both stuck in the hole." But her friend laid a comforting hand on her shoulder. "No worries, sweetie," she said. "I've been here before, and I know the way out." Sound familiar? Friends remind us of what we're capable of, and sometimes our self-confidence crashes. We may doubt our ability to recover from a loss or a relationship change, or we feel we'll never meet the right people or adjust to our new living circumstances, or maybe we're even too tapped out to even try. And when that happens, a friend is there with a tough love and soft support to push us to do what they know we are capable of. The last one, they believe in you. The truth is, we're often quite unkind to ourselves. You know, we focus on our flaws and beat ourselves up for our mistakes and grow anxious that we're not doing enough with our lives. And by the way, the ratio is we're 5 times more negative than positive, just in the normal course of events. And the therapy for it is to be 5 times more positive, right? So that's a little trick, it's a little hack that we need to teach ourselves. Even if it's just, if it feels mechanical, we've got to do it. Our good friends trust us, they have faith in us, they energize and strengthen us, especially when we can't seem to do those things for ourselves. We can carry that jewel of solid friendship whenever and wherever we need to be reminded of our value or our worth. It just needs for us to have the courage to reach out, which is something that's very hard for people. Just wanted to tell you a little bit about a friendship of mine. I have another psychologist friend who's like an engineer type friend. And I'm the people person and she's the researcher. And we decided a long time ago that if either of us got really stuck, like if she got stuck in the people person department or if I got stuck in figuring out a technical solution, we would exchange heads. So it would be like, I would just imagine, what would Diane do? And the truth of the matter is, it really worked. She would imagine, what would Andrea do? And she became an extrovert, which was very sweet and flattering. I had no idea that that was something that somebody might want to imitate, you know. And her engineering mind was definitely something that, interestingly enough, if I put my own mindset to that, I knew exactly what she would do. And that was very helpful. So if you have any friends that you need to swap heads with, you'll remember that story. When the young women in this video mention the feeling of having met friends for life, we know that they're speaking of the invaluable uplift that safe, and I call safe and sacred sisterhood provides. And as we all grow and hopefully become more mindful and fortunate, this feeling of well-being or having a life well lived converts first into gratitude and then into generosity, or what the psychologist Erik Erikson liked to say, we become generative, invested in future generations. Predictably, this happens in the second half of life. And we all know, and brain research confirms, that the feeling achieved by authentic giving elevates us more than actually receiving. The parts of the brain involved in both are highly activated in ways that benefit our mental and physical health. It's always nice when the latest neuroscience confirms what we're already doing right. I believe that the next best thing to blessed life circumstances is to be graced with a few close friends. Let's be grateful for all the love and respect in this room, all that we've been able to give and receive. And now, just in closing, for those of us on the later stage of the age spectrum, let's consider some of the opportunities for our own continued growth, well-being, or quality of life. Ready for a little gift to yourself? How many of you keep or have ever kept a journal? Yay, good. I'm a big advocate. It is probably one of the leading, aside from friendship, one of the leading experiences that you have the ability to use yourself that really can keep your life on track. And of course, like after years of teaching it, I am convinced that our inner wisdom is there for the asking. We just have to practice a little bit how to use it. But it's definite and it can be accessed as guidance that we can trust. Just see what happens when you ask yourself. So here are a few prompts, and we've listed a couple on that handout that you can ask yourself and write the response. Powerful question. What remains for me to be learned? What remains for me to experience? What remains for me to begin or to finish up or brought to the next level of our own lives? And by the way, if you're anything like me, some of us get motivated with a little pressure. It's good news that limited time frames can make for a sense of what I call productive urgency. So don't forget, we have our own self-worth and our legacies to consider. Perhaps increasing some heartfelt sharing can pave the way for some additional or enhanced friendship, especially good for some of you newcomers. it's still our dreams and goals that keep us vivacious, just like these single mom scholars and their kids. We all hold dreams, and it keeps us walking courageously into our future. So I'm happy to report that it's never too late for any of this. It's only too late if our life is over before we even recognize that we have choices. So I'd like to leave you with a sweet sentiment. It's a poem written by my colleague Donna Markova, and I love her reminder about the process and possibility of fulfillment. But I do poems in a particular way. So I'd like you, if you're willing, to just close your eyes so that you can really benefit from the poem, because poems are a little abstract sometimes. So unless we really concentrate, we don't necessarily get the benefit of it. She says, I will not die an unlived life. I will not live in fear of falling or catching fire. I choose to inhabit my days, to allow my living to open me, to make me less afraid, more accessible, to loosen my heart until it becomes a wing, a torch, a promise. I choose to risk my significance, to live, so that which came to me as seed goes to the next as blossom, and that which came to me as blossom goes on as fruit. So that which came to me as seed goes to the next as blossom, and that which came to me as blossom goes on and as fruit. That's it. Such appreciation for all of your attention and for all of you being here today. Thank you.